Wei Ling sees the two lines on the test at 6 in the morning. She sits on the edge of the bathtub for a long time before she wakes her husband. By that evening, they have already done what every Singaporean couple does in this exact moment. They have opened a calculator app. Not because they are not happy, they are. Because somewhere underneath the happiness sits a question neither of them says out loud yet. How much is this actually going to cost? This video answers that question properly. Not the headline number you see in newspaper articles. The real one, month by month, stage by stage, from the morning of that test to the day their child walks across a university stage 22 years later. 9 months later, Wei Ling is in a subsidised Class B2 ward at KKH. Her gynecologist talked her out of the private suite at Thomson Medical, which would have run $12,000 to $18,000 for a straightforward delivery. Here, with the citizen subsidy, her bill for a normal vaginal birth comes to $2,200. MediSave covers most of it automatically. She walks out of the hospital having paid less than $500 in cash. This is the first thing almost nobody tells expecting parents in Singapore. The birth itself is the cheapest part of the entire journey. The government has made sure of that. What happens in the following 18 months is where the real numbers begin. Within 2 weeks of registering their daughter's birth, $11,000 in baby bonus cash starts arriving, paid out in 5 installments over the next year and a half. A further $5,000 lands automatically in a child development account the moment they open it. When they deposit their own $6,000 into that account over the following years, the government matches it, dollar for dollar. By the time the dust settles on the paperwork, the government has put roughly $22,000 behind their daughter before she can even hold her head up. Wei Ling does the math and feels, for the first time since the bathroom floor, something close to relief. That relief does not last. 8 months in, Wei Ling goes back to work. The daycare decision arrives faster than either of them expected. A premium infant care center near her office quotes $2,400 a month. She almost signs before her husband stops her and pulls up the anchor operator list. The government-funded centers capped at $1,200 a month from this year. After the basic subsidy and the means-tested additional subsidy, their actual bill lands at $420 a month. Same daughter, same quality of care according to every parent review she reads. $1,980 a month in the difference. This is the second thing nobody tells you. In Singapore, the subsidized option and the premium option are not separated by quality. They are separated by branding and a longer wait list. Most parents who pay the premium price never actually compare the two side by side. They just assume more expensive means better, sign the contract, and never run the numbers Wei Ling just ran. 18 months of infant care at the subsidized rate, then 4 more years of childcare at $610 a month, dropping to roughly $300 after subsidy. Total for 5.5 years of full-day care, approximately $23,000 out of their own pocket. Primary 1 arrives. Wei Ling expects a bill. There is no bill. School fees for citizens at government primary schools have been zero since 2012. What lands in her inbox instead is a notification that her daughter's MediSave account has received $230 from the government, automatically, no application required. The only costs that actually appear are the ones nobody puts in a brochure. The uniform set, $150. The school bag and stationery, $80. The miscellaneous fee that covers facilities and basic programs, $8 a month, deducted by gyro without her even noticing most months. 6 years of primary school, all in, maybe $2,000 total. Mostly uniforms and books that get replaced as her daughter grows. This is the part of the Singapore education system that genuinely works as designed. If Wei Ling's family stopped here, books, uniform, the $8 miscellaneous fee, raising a child through primary school would barely register as a financial event. But almost no family in Singapore stops here. Primary 4. Her daughter brings home a math test. 62%. Wei Ling does not panic. She has heard the statistic before, but never thought about what it meant until this exact moment, holding this exact test paper. 7 out of 10 primary school children in Singapore attend private tuition. 72% of secondary students have used it at some point in their schooling. She asks around the school gate. The answer comes back from 3 different mothers in almost identical words. Everyone has a tutor. You just don't talk about it. A group tuition class for primary math runs $40 an hour, twice a week. That is roughly $320 a month for one subject. By the time her daughter reaches primary 6 and the PSLE looms, families across Singapore are spending between $400 and $1,200 a month just on exam preparation tuition, and that is the average, not the ceiling. Households in the top income bracket spend 4.5 times more on tuition than households at the bottom. Not because their children needed more, because they can afford to remove the doubt. Wei Ling signs up for one subject, then 2. By the time her daughter sits the PSLE, tuition has cost them roughly $11,000 across 6 years of primary school, a number that exists nowhere in any official government estimate of education costs because it is entirely optional. Except in Singapore, it does not feel optional. It feels like the price of not falling behind. Secondary school arrives. The miscellaneous fee creeps up to $6 a month, still close to nothing. But her daughter is now in the IP stream, heading toward O-levels, and the tuition math compounds. Secondary tuition runs up to $100 an hour for an experienced ex-MOE teacher. 2 subjects, twice a week each, for 4 years. Wei Ling stops calculating the running total at this point. She just pays the gyro deduction and tries not to look at the yearly sum. If she did look, she would see roughly $15,000 across 4 years of secondary school tuition alone, on top of CCA fees, school trips that range from $30 to $600 depending on whether they cross a border, and a school bus that costs $200 a month because the alternative is a 40-minute MRT transfer at 6:30 in the morning. By the time her daughter enters junior college, the family has spent more on private tuition through 12 years of schooling than her father once paid for his entire first car. JC is intense. 2 years that decide which door opens at the university stage. H2. Mathematics tuition alone runs up to $130 an hour. Her daughter, motivated and a little burnt out, asks for help in 3 subjects. Wei Ling and her husband have a conversation they have been avoiding for 2 years. Not about whether to support her, about whether they can keep doing this at this intensity for 2 more years without touching the money they had set aside for retirement. They cut it down to 2 subjects instead of 3. Her daughter understands, mostly. Then the acceptance letter arrives. National University of Singapore, Business School. Wei Ling and her husband sit at the same kitchen table where they first opened that calculator app 18 years earlier. The subsidized annual fee for a citizen at NUS Business in 2026, $10,100. Over 4 years, $40,400. This is where most families discover the CPF Education Scheme exists. Wei Ling can use her own ordinary account savings, or her husband's, to pay the tuition directly, treat it as a loan against their own retirement account, charge the CPF ordinary account interest rate of 2.5%, repayable over up to 12 years. It is not free money. It is borrowing from their own future to fund her present. But at 2.5%, it is one of the cheapest loans either of them will ever take in their lives. Her daughter graduates 4 years later, top half of her cohort, not the top of the class. The version of Wei Ling that worried about every percentage point in primary 4 has by now mostly let that go. Here is the full number, not the marketing number, the real one. From the antenatal clinic to the graduation stage, government support alone, baby bonus, CDA matching, MediSave, the MediSave newborn grant, puts roughly $35,000 directly into this child's life without Wei Ling lifting a finger. What the family pays after every subsidy, every government scheme, every anchor operator discount, childcare around $23,000, primary and secondary miscellaneous costs around $5,000, Tuition across 12 years of schooling somewhere between $25,000 and $35,000, depending on how aggressively a family chases grades, and university fees of roughly $40,000, partly bridged by the CPF loan. Add it together honestly, the way Wei Ling finally does the night before the graduation ceremony, and the number that emerges is not the $78,000 quoted in the official back-of-envelope estimate that only counts school fees. It is somewhere between $130,000 and $180,000 across 22 years, and the single largest swing factor in that range is not the hospital, not the school, not even the university. It is tuition, the one expense that appears in no government brochure, that every family insists they will skip, and that almost none of them actually do. Wei Ling watches her daughter cross the stage at NUS and thinks about the bathroom floor 18 years ago. The calculator app. The number she was afraid to look up that night because she assumed it would be a number that scared her out of the decision entirely. It was never really about the number. It was about understanding it early enough to plan for it, instead of discovering it one tuition invoice at a time. The families in Singapore who get through this without financial strain are not the families who spent the least. They are the families who knew, from the bathroom floor onward, roughly what this entire road was going to cost, and built toward it deliberately, instead of flinching at each new bill as it arrived. If this number surprised you, hit the like button and subscribe. Next video, exactly how much to set aside each month from the day your child is born to cover this entire journey without touching your own retirement.